Hi everyone, welcome to episode 14. My guest today is, well, basically me talking jiu-jitsu with my co-host, Bryan Vieira.
It's time to high five and fist bump. A jiu-jitsu podcast for the everyday grappler. Let's talk subs. Let's talk positions. Let's talk dominating the mats. Welcome to the Let's Talk Jiu-Jitsu podcast with Raymond Terrence.
Hey, Bryan.
What's up?
I literally said I would start by saying, hey, Bryan.
And here we are, like magic.
Hey, guys. So it's me, Raymond Terrence here. I've got Bryan Vieira with us, obviously. We don't have a guest today, so we're just going to chat it up. Yeah, Professor Mark was going to swing by, and then his wife said, no, you must stay home with guests. So it's just Bryan and I tonight. So we're going to go through just a bunch of random topics and just have a some casual discussion about jiu-jitsu and whatnot and things that have been happening on Facebook and in different groups and posts and all that fun stuff. And maybe we can answer some questions from you guys and whatnot. So how's it going?
I'm doing good.
You went on a business trip and you did not train jiu-jitsu, and then you said we'd save it for the podcast.
Yeah. So I went to Arizona for the new company that I'm working for called Mia Pasta. Let me do a little shameless plug here.
Mia Pasta.
So it is a great pasta bar concept, fast casual restaurant.
Cool.
And in Quebec, they're found mostly like on the North Shore area kind of thing. And then there's a few way up north. I think there's one in Gatineau. There's a couple. So there's about 11 or 12 locations. And we have a few out west. And we did our first U.S. location in Arizona, in Scottsdale, Arizona.
Oh.
And so I thought, let me look up who's down there. And Wellington Megaton Diaz is down there. And
right.
I was like, wow, that'd be great to go, train down there. So I called him ahead of time when I didn't really know when my trip was. And he's like, yeah, he's for sure. I told him, Fabio told me to say, tell him Fabio Holanda says hi. So I told him, he's like, oh yeah, Fabio's a great guy, So, he's like, what level are you? And I'm like, well, I'm a 45-year-old purple belt. And he's like, oh, we love 45-year-old purple belts here. And I'm like, oh shit, what does that mean? But he was super cool on the phone. And he said, open invitation anytime you want to come. So when I finally did end up going, it was delayed a bit, my trip. So I ended up, leaving about a week after I had anticipated. And so I got there and I started calling again, and it's really hard to get through that place. Nobody answers the phone. The one time I called him, I got really lucky because he answered himself.
Wow.
So I'm like, hey, Mr. Diaz? And he's like,
Sir,
Professor? I didn't know what to call him.
Yeah.
But this time nobody would answer the phone. So I said, let me just take a drive and go see where it is. Okay. So it was about 25 minutes from my hotel. So it wasn't that bad.
Close.
Yeah. So I drove there. And I pulled up and I see this same building you see in the internet, and an huge empty parking lot. And you saw the pics of the parking lot?
Oh, yeah, with the belts?
Yeah, it's awesome. The
That's
curbs
so cool.
at each parking spot have the belt colors painted on the curb. So right in the front of the black belts, and then along the side, it goes brown, purple, blue, and then
That's
the kids'
super
colors.
cool.
Yeah, it's
That's
awesome.
Cool.
So big empty parking lot. So I was a little disappointed. I looked on the thing and it said opens at 5. But I'm like, but they don't have classes, I think, until 8, So okay. I waited until like 5:20. Nobody showed up. And there was actually another guy there. Waiting. He took an Uber to go check it out.
No.
So he was just waiting around, and I started talking to him. And he is I think he's from Chicago. I can't remember. But I don't remember his name either. Shit.
Okay.
I was going to say, I told him all about the podcast. You got to listen to it. So I'd say hello, but hello, Uber guy waiting at Megatons. I don't remember your name. Sorry. But we chatted for a bit, and then I left, and then I said I'll try again after, and then we were just fucking swamped with the opening of the restaurant, and everything, and dealing with all the construction, all that stuff, so it was very time consuming. And then my boss came a little bit later, a few days later, and it was the first time I met that boss because he's out in Calgary. Okay, and my boss here and this guy, they're partners, so. So I didn't want to just take off at night and go again and see if they're there, and he was like, hey, everybody's going to have dinner tonight,
right.
whatever. So you know how it is.
Yeah.
So I didn't get a chance to do that. And it was like my last 2 nights, but I did call to find out just in case I was able to go. And it ended up, Mr. Diaz was out of town anyways. He went away
Okay.
for the week or whatever. So I wouldn't have been able to train with him. I would have just went with whoever. They said, oh, we got plenty of black belts. And the way I reached them was through Facebook Messenger. It was the best way to reach
someone was on it.
Someone was
basically,
on
yeah.
it, responding, and they were on top of it.
That's the thing, eh? Like, if you're calling by phone, it has to be someone's cell phone. You know what I mean? Like, if it's not someone's cell phone and they actually have a business phone there, like, you'll never reach somebody. Like, you look at these schools, the jiu-jitsu schools, it's not like they're open all day, every day. You know what I mean?
No, you're right. I mean, we're lucky. There's almost someone always at our BTT, right?
Right.
Just because there's so much going on.
Right.
But sure, a lot of them are just, oh, we'll come back, in 2 hours when we have a class, starting up, because they have nothing else maybe or something.
Yeah. So no jiu-jitsu.
No jiu-jitsu. And then by that time, I kind of ruined my kind of chances because I left it open to go there rather than go and train with Charles.
Right.
He trains at Gracie Baja. So, but I did end up going to have dinner with Charles, so that was great.
That's good.
So yeah.
That doesn't count as jiu-jitsu, by the way.
No, it doesn't. Having
Dinner with a jiu-jitsu guy.
black belt doesn't count as doing jiu-jitsu.
Or does it?
I know. But Charles Everly, shout out, super cool guy, very hospitable. He bought me dinner.
Nice.
We went to this cool little local place near his house, and he's super interesting. And I didn't want to talk too much about jiu-jitsu with him because I know we're going to do a podcast with him,
Right.
and he's really looking forward to that too. We just talked about his work and the whole medicine. I'm having a brain fart here.
Medicine?
Yeah, the whole oh my god, the healthcare system.
Oh,
God,
okay.
in the States versus Canada and everything. We had some cool conversation.
Okay.
And but the jiu-jitsu thing we'll keep for when
Definitely.
we talk to him and stuff, and really look forward to that because he's a UFC medic, whatever you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
He's in the sidelines there when all the big boys are fighting in the UFC octagon.
How old is he?
I think he's like 52.
And his jiu-jitsu is ridiculous.
Yeah.
When you roll with him,
Oh, yeah.
he doesn't roll like a older
No.
gentleman.
Oh no, God, 52, but he's
Not that he's an older gentleman at 52, but I mean, it's a guy who has mileage.
but he's like a
But
35-year-old.
exactly,
kind of
yeah,
thing.
it's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. And one of the nicest guys in the world.
Yeah.
So, no, I had a great time. So thanks again, Charles, if you're listening. It was very good of you to take me out that night, and hopefully we'll do it again. I might actually be going back to Arizona again.
Oh, yeah?
Hopefully.
Soon?
I don't know. He said maybe soon, but I don't know what that means. That
Okay.
could mean 2 weeks. It could mean 6 months. I have no idea.
Okay.
But if
Have
I
you been
do, I will definitely go back to Mexico.
Have you been to jiu-jitsu since you've been back?
No.
Doing class?
No, I
No,
got
but you've
back
only
on
been back
Friday
for
night.
like, yeah.
I got back
2
Friday night.
days,
That's
yeah.
it. So then it was like sleep because I didn't sleep much. I was working nonstop there, and then today's Sunday, right? So that's it.
I was going to go to open mat today, but I had scheduled a podcast at 3 o'clock that didn't end up working out with Professor Caleb Kalista in Punta Cana, and apparently the internet went down for everyone in Punta Cana
That's hilarious.
because that's how it works down there.
We have one server.
Yeah.
There's one antenna.
So we're going to do him tomorrow. Definitely. That's going to be a podcast for tomorrow. But I was going to go to open mat, but I didn't, and then that didn't work out, but we're back on track this week. So back to jiu-jitsu. Yeah. And my family got riddled with sickness due to the newborn that got sick. And then my wife wasn't feeling well, and then I got it, and we were all sick. I teach toddler class on Sundays, and I didn't teach 1 week because I was sick, and then we had a swim meet the weekend after, but I literally just stayed away from the mats.
So your son was patient zero.
He was patient zero. Yeah. And I was a good jiu-jitsu student, and even though I wanted to go to jiu-jitsu,
You didn't go.
and maybe at the end, like I could have, I didn't for the well sake of everybody else.
Of course.
The last thing you want, I hate going on the mat and rolling with some guy who's like has a sniffly nose,
Oh,
and
yeah.
like it drives me nuts.
Yeah.
It drives me nuts. Just stay home. Like I know you want to go to jiu-jitsu, but like you're gonna get everybody sick. It's not cool. You just shouldn't
Absolutely.
do it. That's douchebag-ish a little bit. Yeah, a little bit. Okay. Let's jump into a few topics that I wrote down. Okay. A first good one. So everyone's posting on Facebook now what Danaher said about rolling. Did you see what I sent you?
I saw what you wrote, but I don't know if it's
Did you
because
look
I've
at
been
his post? Did you see his post on
No,
Facebook?
I didn't see it.
Okay.
It was new to me when you posted that
Okay,
to me.
yeah.
When you sent that to me.
So he said on Facebook, or posted in some type of forum or chat, that he thinks, from his experience and his knowledge, that you should be rolling 80% of your rolls should be with lower belts than what you are.
Does he explain why?
Okay, so very briefly explains why, and then there's like I don't know how many, like hundreds of comments on that one post, right? So he explains, I did write it down. So he says it's hard to develop technical skills with people that are better than you.
Right.
So you're drilling a sweep, a sub, or whatnot, and if you're trying to drill against somebody who's much better than you, it'll be harder to pull off because they'll read it. They'll know what you're about to do.
They see it coming.
They see it coming. They might know that technique. They might avoid it. So how are you going to drill that technique if the people that you're going at are always the hard rolls with people that are better than you? How are you ever going to land it? So yes, maybe by practice and finding sneaky ways of doing it, eventually you'll get to it. So I kind of see his point that...
Yeah, I see it too, but it's the percentages that I'm having a hard time is how he determined 80, that. Why 80? Why not 50?
He said 80 to 90. He said 80 to 90 in his post.
Do you think that it was a spur of the moment kind of thing, or do you think he's probably said that in the past? Like
I don't think he says things like spur of the moment,
no,
because all of his posts,
he's very calculating.
He is. And they're long, intelligent, well thought up posts. So it just was his beliefs. And then, I mean, there was tons of comments and whatnot. And what else did he say? He said doing that. Rolling with higher belts and getting hard rolls, you develop a very good defensive position, right? Because you should be always on the defense against a higher belt who's probably always trying to attack you and sub you and whatnot. So he says, as opposed to offense, which is his belief is the point of jiu-jitsu. The point of jiu-jitsu is to dominate your opponent, right?
Yeah.
So if you're always going for the sub and always trying to be in a dominant position and whatnot, the other person should be always on defense. So that was the second point to it.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah, and I mean, not for us to say that we would know better, obviously not than him, but I'm just trying to think of my own experience, and I think when I go against lower belts, try new stuff, right?
But I never go lower belts. It's weird. It's rare, because like if you think of the line.
Well, what do you mean? You always go with lower belts unless you're picked. So you're picked often then by a higher
I'm
belt.
either picked, and if I'm not, I pick the next guy in line, who's usually another purple or a blue.
You got to be down in my end of the line.
We're both the same belt. We're both purples.
Doesn't matter. I'm lower on the line because I just got my purple belt not long ago. But so more often than not, because I'm probably one of the newest purple belts, right? So more often than not, I look to my left and I have a blue belt. Mm-hmm. And, if there's no blue belts that day, there's going to be white belts. And if those blue belts got picked by somebody else, then I'm picking it down the line. So maybe I get lower belts more often than you do. But not all the time. You're right. Like usually we just took the guy to the left and we pick that guy. And a lot of times the blue belts that I am picking are savages anyways.
There you go.
So some of them are better than me. Some of them are almost good as me or whatever. So it's you're right. It's always it's hard to say. But when I get picked by if I pick a lower belt, I'll try newer stuff. Let's say so happens we get a white belt going and he's like 6 months in or whatever, or 10 months in. I'll try newer stuff. I'll try stuff I won't do, but it could mean I'm trying a new defensive thing. I'm trying to protect myself in a different way, or it could mean I'm attacking in a different way. But if I get picked by a higher belt, I find they're doing the same thing to me now, right?
Yeah.
So
it's true. Yeah.
Hey, but I won't try new stuff with a higher belt.
Mm-hmm.
I will say I'm going to bring my best game and see if I can actually make it work this time against this brown belt or against this black belt. You know what I mean? And so I guess that's what it is, right?
Side note to that, actually, which made me think, in another podcast we were talking about how sometimes purple belts and blue belts and whatnot, they'll roll with higher belts and then they'll do super well against them.
Yeah,
and they'll be like, man, like I totally should get promoted soon, or like or my jiu-jitsu is doing really well. Like you feel confident because you're like, hey, like I was able to get here with that brown belt, or I was able to get here with that purple belt. But when you think about it with that logic of rolling 80% of the time with lower belts, that black belt, brown belt, or purple belt who you rolled with might have been rolling with you, right?
50%.
No, not 50, but with the goal of landing that one technique that they're working, or that one sweep, which made you look super great. But in reality, they're just working on their technique.
I think sometimes we catch a higher belt and it'll never happen again, let's say, or whatever, because they were letting you get to a certain point.
Right.
And then you just got good on that one move and you caught him, whatever. It's kind of an anomaly, right? And then they'll never let you get there again, which is, I guess, the point.
Yeah.
And then you'll say, oh yeah, I did great. And sometimes you'll go against a guy who's like, you've always considered your kind of your level or a little bit higher than you, and you do super good one day and you just demolish him. Then you're like, yeah, on cloud 9, like,
Right.
yeah, fuck, I'm the shit. Then the next day you get your ass handed to you by a lower Ray just spit water all over himself.
All right.
And then you're like, oh my God, I suck at jiu-jitsu. I'm going
memories.
to jump off a building. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that's what I love so much about jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
Is that 1 minute you think you're doing great or you are doing great, and then the next minute you're like, oh my God, I got to work on this so hard. Yeah.
Yeah, because I thought about it. I thought about the post, and I was able to relate to it, and it makes sense to me because due to the fact that I don't end up going down the line quite often, like I'm always picking the guy next to me, and I think I'm going to rethink that.
Right.
Because if I'm rolling with someone, if I'm rolling with another purple belt, and if I land what I'm trying to go for, and I'm working on, I've been doing worm guard for like 6 months now, or really working that worm guard, and it's been getting better and better, and most of the time I'm rolling with purple belts,
right.
Or higher. But when I am really going for it, I know if I'm rolling against people in my level and I'm able to land that stuff, I know it's getting somewhere. But I like the idea of rolling with like a blue belt and be like, man, if I keep landing it there and keep working it and working those little intricacies that are giving me a hard time, maybe that will take me longer to figure out when I'm rolling with a purple or a brown, maybe I'll have more success quicker against people that are better than me or higher level than
right.
me. So I don't know, maybe I'll rethink it next time I'm in the line and be like, maybe I'll just like, I'll grab I'll get behind the purples, get them in front of me. Hopefully they'll get picked first. And then I can maybe pick a blue or something, and then work on the little things that I want to work on. It's smart. It's not a bad concept.
No, I guess not. And
80%
maybe we don't
is
even.
a lot, though.
It sounds like a lot, but maybe we're not seeing what he sees.
Maybe
the guy sees obviously so much more than we have, but maybe that's what it is. Maybe we're just not there yet to understand it completely.
Yeah. Interesting. Good point.
What
else do we got? Somebody was asking. If only training BJJ was conditioning enough for your everyday life. You know what I mean? Like walking upstairs, walking back and forth in the office, I don't know, like cardio and all that stuff. And I had a hard time like thinking of an answer for that. If I were to only do so I have to say that my conditioning mostly consists of BJJ, and only recently did I start doing some conditioning in the weight room.
Right.
I got a program for my core, because I was getting like injuries like in between the ribs, like the cartilage or the muscle, whatever is there. And I find that because of the game that I was playing and really working the worm guard, it involved me like turning my body in weird ways that I wasn't used to, like almost going all the way to the back, when I have the lapel underneath the leg. So like I'm twisting my whole body to the side, and if someone puts pressure, I find like it was creating some like lingering injuries.
Right.
So I started doing some stretches and stuff like that and some exercises in the weight room. But I mean, previous to that, it was really just jiu-jitsu, and I mean, it's not like I couldn't pick anything up or like, I don't know, walk long distances or.
Well, I think there's a lot of variables, right? If Phil Siegel was here, he'd be like, well, it depends. It depends on the person. So it for myself, I hadn't done anything in a long time, exercise wise, since before I started jiu-jitsu. So for me, it would absolutely benefit me to do conditioning apart from jiu-jitsu, and it would probably really help my game. John, too, my son, is always telling me, come on, you got to get in there with me and put a little program together for you, and do some workouts aside from jiu-jitsu. I think to me, it's more of a question of time and like, okay, if I want to do jiu-jitsu 3 days a week and then I do the gym the other 3 or 4 days, then when the hell am I going to be home? So but whatever, I'll get there eventually. I just got to get off my ass. But then there's a guy, let's say a younger guy, in his 20s, and he does jiu-jitsu 6 days a week or 7 days a week, and he's depending on what academy he goes to, maybe they're more, they like to do the workout beforehand, the warm-ups and the running around and the the different, the shrimping and all the kind of stuff that kind of gets you going, before you start doing technique. They get a good little workout there, and then they get sparring at the end. So I think it's a decent class, right? And if they're doing it 6 days a week, then it's not bad. Do they really need conditioning? And they're 25,
right?
Let's say. So
yeah. I think the age is a big factor.
It's huge for sure.
Yeah.
So I can't do jiu-jitsu 6 days a week. I'm not in shape for it. So I would need to get conditioning done in order to get there. I think.
And then people will say, well, if the time that you're spending in the conditioning room, you could be at jiu-jitsu.
Right. So maybe my jiu-jitsu game might get better, but my stamina won't. Right. My endurance won't. So not necessarily, unless I'm doing something to help that. Right.
You just gotta have lazy jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, I guess.
That's what I have. I have lazy jiu-jitsu. It involves like it only like I can't do my lazy jiu-jitsu against people like Will. William Paget, who, again, no matter what I do, even if I was like 20 again, like it's just what I can't keep up with his cardio and his conditioning. He's just a young guy, you know what I mean?
Cardio, yeah.
So I have a hard time slowing the pace with him. I try as much as I can, but I mean, everybody else, like I try for my jiu-jitsu to be pretty lazy, even on the bottom, on the top, doesn't matter. So I control the pace. I determine what the pace is going to be. I don't let anybody speed up on me or things like that. It just doesn't make any sense. So, I mean, would I focus on cardio? Probably not, because I don't think I necessarily need it. Right. I don't know. But then there's that. I mean, I did that 26-minute match. You know what I mean? And, But again, I wasn't tired. I wasn't sweating. I was on the bottom for 26 minutes. Bottom half, and just waiting, setting up my things and stuff. So it's not like if I needed cardio to prepare for that or anything like that. But I don't know. I think in regards to the question, I think it really depends on what you're looking for and how old you are.
Yeah, your state, your own state.
Are you looking to bulk up, and is that really going to help your jiu-jitsu? Do you think it's going to help your jiu-jitsu, and why, and all that stuff? Because from experience, bulking up isn't going to help your jiu-jitsu. But I mean, who knows? And then there's your son who contradicts that theory in every possible way.
Well,
just benches people off of him.
Yeah, he gets it now. So.
But he's more technical now than he's ever been.
Yes, absolutely. And he made a conscious effort. So what he was doing at one point was he would put his workout days in the gym the same days as jiu-jitsu. So when he got to jiu-jitsu, he was really tired already.
Right.
And his arms were sore, or his shoulders were sore, his legs or whatever. So, but then I started telling him, I don't know if it's actually helping you. I think you need to have the strength and not use it. I don't think the solution is to tire yourself out completely, because then I was watching him knowing he was tired from his 2-hour stint at the gym and watching him jiu-jitsu and just finding himself on the bottom and tired and stalling a bit because he's so gassed or whatever. And I'm like, I don't know. I think it'd be better if he was, top shape and conserving his energy, like being consciously saving his energy, not doing it because he just can't breathe anymore or whatever, So I don't know. Maybe it's a happy mix of both. But now he's back to training on the days he doesn't do jiu-jitsu.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. So now he's with, Monday nights and Wednesday nights with Cascal.
Monday night, Wednesday night, okay.
And then sometimes Friday with Will when he can. Right. It's a lot about, lifts and stuff with me. And he does the gyms on the other nights now, on the Tuesdays and Thursdays and stuff. So, So I think he feels it's better. He feels better, I think, after each session.
And he's working overnight still, right?
And he works night shift, graveyard shift. So
he does jiu-jitsu, trains, and then goes to work right after, and then sleeps.
Monday night, he goes to jiu-jitsu. I pick him up, drive him to work. Wednesday night, jiu-jitsu, and then I bring him home. He doesn't work.
Okay.
And then Friday, if he goes to Will's class, he'll go there, and I'll pick him up, bring him home. He doesn't work Friday nights. Okay. So, yeah.
That's an interesting schedule.
So, yeah, it is. You know what? People say they don't have time to do jiu-jitsu or whatever, don't have time to do something.
He's figuring
This
out.
is a perfect example of it. Guy's working graveyard shift. He sleeps during the day until 3-4 o'clock in the afternoon. Yeah. And he finds the time to do all of it.
You have to have an academy that gives you the opportunity to do it too. Yeah. And like we said, it's not every academy that has classes every night of the week, lunchtime, morning, and whatnot. So, I mean, we're pretty blessed for the schedule that we have, and it works for anybody on any schedule. Yep. I can't say I've never heard anyone say they didn't have time in our academy to do jiu-jitsu because of all the classes that we have. I've heard people say that, but the people that do say that, they don't last long. I mean, they're around for a couple months, and then you don't see them.
And now even more so since Fred opened Vaudreuil, second location. Sometimes people will call, like yesterday or today, Pat, asked the thing, hey, what's going on in Vaudreuil tonight? So even if it's a night that there's maybe not something going on in the West Island, you can ask about Vaudreuil, and there might be something going on there. He's
funny. He messaged at 12. He's like, hey, what's going on in Vaudreuil? And then Fred's like, there was class at 11 a.m. He was like an hour late. That's crappy. Okay, what else? So a few IBJJF things. So, I fought. Yeah, the fees, man. So $40. Again, this is not nothing new. People are going to be like, yeah, we heard about this a few months ago or a year ago or this and that. But someone just recently posted there was a big conversation about it, about the IBJJF fees being $40 US dollars for the yearly membership. And then the cost of registering, which is obviously in US, so 126 US.
Yeah.
So if you put that in Canadian dollars for our Canadian
crazy.
listeners, what's 126 in American?
Well, think about it as a whole, because it's 40 American plus 126 American.
Well, so 40 for the year. So if you want to do your first IBJJF, right?
Yeah.
Do you have
So 126, 129. No?
126?
126. Okay, plus 40 is 166, and multiply by, I think it was 34% yesterday.
That's insane.
So add $56 to that, right? 166, we said. Yeah, it's $222 Canadian to do one fucking tournament.
So to do your first IBJ,
your first tournament, and then after that,
every tournament is 126 plus tax.
Oh, plus tax. Don't forget too. Yeah, I forgot about that. Tax.
Tax and exchange.
Times 1.34. It's $168 Canadian.
Single elimination.
Crazy, crazy, crazy. It's gonna scare. Well, some people say no, it won't. You know, people that do. It's not that much at the end of the year, dude. You know, I used to tell my buddies that their kids are like in hockey and football and stuff. Oh, you guys, it's so expensive. Jiu-jitsu's so cheap. It's great, you know, considering, sure, it sounds like, you know, a high monthly fee, but at the end of the year, it's not that much.
Yeah.
They're not that far apart.
It's true.
You know, you look at all the equipment they buy and everything, and then you look at what we pay, plus the gi, and then the tournaments. And then if you have to go out of town for the tournament, you got to, it's just like when they go to their hockey tournaments that are abroad, right? So it's very comparable now. So when you get these IBJJF American tournaments for $129 American, and then you add tax on that. It's costly for sure.
I got a message from one of my buddies that I met just recently when I went to Boston to compete. Another BTT affiliate down there.
Okay.
And I saw that he registered for the IBJJF Boston in 2 weeks.
Okay.
And I commented, "Oh, good job. I hope you have a great time in this NAB." And he asked me if I was going to register, and I didn't go through my rant of I'm never doing points ever again. But I was like, "No, I'm not."
Yeah.
And that's where it came up, the cost and everything. Even though Boston for us is like 6 hours, it's only 6 hours away. But I mean, you got to stay the night before. You can't drive up at 3 a.m. type of thing. So you got to go the night before. You have to. I mean, it's not the gas; it's the night before, the cost of the hotel. And if you add like the exchange rate and everything, it just makes no sense.
Well, it is the gas too. It's a tank there and a tank back.
Yeah, that's true.
Right?
Yeah.
It's $80 there, $80 back, let's say, for gas. And you eat, and then the hotel another, $150 or whatever it is for a night.
Yeah.
So for sure.
So for just like a normal IBJJF, like an open, it's not really worth it. You know what I mean?
No.
Especially and look at your divisions. I mean, unless you're an adult, so you're an adult at like middleweight.
Yeah.
I mean, their divisions are stacked all the time, right? But anything like Master 1, Master 2, and up, and so on, I mean, like you can't find anybody.
Especially if you weigh, 215.
Yeah, and there you go. You weigh a little bit more, and the second you start looking at like purple and whatnot, I mean, you have next to no one in your division. Yeah. Just for the fun of it, I looked. Yeah. Just to see if there was anyone in my division. I wasn't going to register. I just looked. I just glanced. I went for a
just
glance.
Window shopping.
Yeah, and there was one guy, in Masters 2, purple belt.
Did you recognize
at middleweight? I didn't, but I did Facebook stalk and I could not find him. I just like doing that. You're like, who would I compete against, type of thing, right?
That's funny.
But no, it's so expensive. I don't know how people in Canada will afford, unless the IBJJF is in Canada, which is normally Toronto, and they come once a year. You know what I mean? That's one tournament. I mean, when they obviously say that they say that the IBJJF is the most prestigious tournament, but I think as time goes by and all these other tournaments popping up and these other names, we're seeing more Nagas and this and that.
Yeah.
I think the IBJJF will definitely be prestigious, maybe for the Worlds, World Masters, Worlds, and all.
Well, isn't it debatable whether it's the IBJJF or the Abu Dhabi?
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
I think the Abu Dhabi is considered the most prestigious one. I think so.
Yeah.
I think I'm just going by what I remember hearing.
I think the only thing that they're lacking is the Worlds.
Right.
Like having an Abu Dhabi Worlds.
Yeah.
I remember I had a conversation, I think it was with Professor Phil, about that and how they were lacking just like just do your normal tournament, just put the world, like the name World in it, you know what I mean? And then you'll be on top of the game. But
when I talk to people about those tournaments and stuff, and people that don't know about jiu-jitsu, you know, when you mention like, well, I went with John to California once to the Worlds.
Right.
I'm like, oh, cool. You know, it's like, oh, impressive kind of thing. But, and then you mention, you know, oh, there's this, you know, tournament in Abu Dhabi that if you get the qualifying, if you win your qualifying in your city, you get a paid trip to Abu Dhabi. They're like, ooh, now it's even more impressive, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think I like the idea of the Abu Dhabi better.
Yeah.
Maybe just because it's, you know, in a far mysterious place kind of thing, whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. It'd be nice though if the IBJJF were like considered giving some cash prize if you won your division.
Right.
So
Abu Dhabi does, right?
Yeah, Abu Dhabi, or they used to, or
there.
something. There in Abu Dhabi,
not here, not
right,
at the qualifying.
right,
there
in Abu Dhabi, yeah, because that would be good. You know, if I'm going to spend again $200 to go do a single elimination tournament, I mean, I'd be a little bit more up for it if I knew that, hey, if I won gold, it would, you know, they'd give me my money back and I'd be able to cover it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
that
for
wouldn't
sure.
be too bad. I mean, it's a lot of money
well,
to give
didn't
out.
that happen with I don't know her, but there's a girl at headquarters that went to Abu Dhabi and paid her way.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I think she won, and she ended. It was like at blue belt, and she won the prize package, which basically covered her trip.
Okay. So you got a free trip to
unless
Abu Dhabi,
I'm just
basically.
imagining this whole fucking scenario,
Okay.
but I'm pretty sure that's what happened. I'll hear about it.
Yeah.
So. That it was not at all like that, Brian. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, that would definitely make more sense. It would be a little bit of an initiative. Like, you know, like puts rules like there has to be minimum 3 in your division or something or something like that. But because, man, that's a lot of money. I was looking at that and it's crazy.
So there's another one coming up. Maybe we can plug this guy. Black Fly
you told me
Brazilian
about
Jiu-Jitsu.
that. But are they actually doing it now?
Oh, yeah, it's in May. They always have.
Is it in Smooth Comp?
It is now. This year's the first year I think it was in Smooth Comp.
Really?
Black Fly Jiu-Jitsu, and it's an all-kids tournament. It's just kids, though, eh?
Oh, it's just kids?
It's just kids.
Well, I'm not Googling it anymore. I was just in the middle of Googling it.
No, it's only kids. It's so for
Screw
anybody
black
who
flies. Was it red flies? Black flies?
Black flies. Yeah. Any
that's cool.
parents with kids on jiu-jitsu, it's in Maine.
You said it was a good tournament.
Well, it looked good. Last year they had 126 kids.
That's good. It's a good
so
start.
This year, hey, maybe 150, 160 maybe, you know. So I was thinking about going this year for sure. It's not that far.
That's
and
amazing.
I think it's like last year anyway, it was $70. The kids get gi and I want to say no gi, or maybe it was just an absolute.
Okay. But
It's
they
one
get
of those
something
two.
else.
And they do he calls it a fun takedown tournament for the kids. So it's, I guess, kind of like judo, right?
Oh,
yeah.
that's cool.
So that's great. And it forced the kids to work on their takedowns and stuff, you know. So I thought, and it's all included in the price. And last year he messaged me back on Messenger and said, yeah, just sign up and don't worry about paying until you get here. And this year they're advertising that now. Just sign up and you pay when you get here. And he last year he also said, for all our Canadian friends, the tournament fees are at par.
Wow.
So it was 70 Canadian for us.
Is he going to do that this year too? At par?
I don't know. I really don't
Let me
remember.
turn down the heat. Keep talking.
Yeah?
It's hot in here.
Okay, so keep talking, eh? Pressure's on. No, but I really like the idea of traveling for tournaments just to make it sound like a bigger deal for Julio, you know, for my son, my little guy. The fact that they're driving to the States to do a tournament makes them feel cool.
And they get a
feel
hype.
special.
Yeah, for sure.
You know what I mean? Yeah, and it makes a little day trip, you know, for the family, whatever. And I mean, I guess everybody in sports that has their kids in sports kind of goes through that already, right? So
yeah. Cool. Okay, so we spoke about actually, since we're on the IBJJF topic, I'm just going to bring up what I sent you there.
The belt ranking thing?
The belt ranking thing. So someone posted in a BJJ group, IBJJF graduation system. And it gives you like all the belts, the ages of how long it should take, the rankings and all that stuff. And I found it really actually Professor Phil said it best. And I'm going to quote him. So I wrote, thoughts, interesting discussion on promotions and what belt level can promote practitioners. Someone posted it on Facebook. It's an official IBJJF document. It basically gives you, okay, so to get your blue belt, it should be 2 years. To get your purple, it should be 1.5 years. To get your brown, it should be 1 year. And then there's nothing for black. And Professor Phil wrote, IBJJF is like Christianity. They used to run everything. So they were the standard back in the day.
Yeah.
And I guess they're not anymore. So, or maybe just a little less.
Well, a lot
Maybe
more
little
companies coming out,
There you
right,
go.
doing their own
Yeah.
tournaments. So what I find it confusing here a bit here. It says practitioners between 16 and 17 years old. Purple to brown is 2 years.
Purple to brown. No, purple to brown is 1 year.
Well, here at the very beginning, from 16 to 17 years old.
Oh, to 16 to 17.
Yes,
Yeah.
it should
Just
take 2 years from purple. How many purple 16-year-olds do you know?
As far as I know, you
It's
can't
like
even
impossible
you can't
because
even
you
have
gotta
a
be a
purple.
blue belt, right?
You get a blue belt at purple.
At 16.
So you get a blue belt at 16. Yeah.
But I've heard these, stories about, these famous jiu-jitsu practitioners that basically eat, sleep, and shit in the jiu-jitsu gym, and they get their black belts in in 3 years or whatever. That one guy, like 18 months or what, but he had like a good background or something of wrestling and shit like that.
Yeah.
But whatever, like, how do they get it so young if you have to be 16 to get a blue belt?
Makes no sense.
Maybe they're so good by the time they turn 16, are they getting their
Go straight to
purple belts
purple.
right away? I guess it could happen, right?
Straight to purple.
But then it says practitioners from 18 years old, white belt to brown belt. So you start at 18, I guess.
At 20, you should have your blue.
Right.
At 21 and a half, you should have your purple. At 22 and a half, you have a brown. And then there's nothing for black. So it's
So this
something.
is basically saying it should take you 4.5 years to get your black belt.
Yeah.
That's fucking crazy.
Mm.
There's some small print there underneath that I can't read because the picture's too blurry too, so
Yeah.
I don't know what that says. And then practitioners from the black belt. Okay. So from black to
Oh, then it's all the stripes, right? The
yeah,
coral belts
the
and all
red
that
black
stuff.
belt is
So it's
31 years.
31 years, 7 years, 10 years. So it'd be a total of 48 years.
48 years. Yeah, I've heard that. 47, 48
Yeah, makes
years.
sense. Yeah. Yeah, I don't
But
know.
I still don't get this whole 4.5 years if you're 18 when you start to get your black belt. Just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I don't know.
So if anybody has any thoughts on that, maybe we're missing something.
Yeah,
right?
maybe. Yeah,
Let us
you
know.
can definitely send us a message.
Yeah.
Go on Facebook and search Let's Talk Jiu-Jitsu Podcast, and you can definitely send us a message there. Or you can email us at letstalkjujitsu@gmail.com. Or you could find me on Facebook, Ray Terrence, or Brian Vieira on Facebook. And yeah, if you have an answer to that, I mean, go for it. I mean, why not? I might as well plug all my social media at the same
There you
time.
go, yeah.
Why not? Got t-shirts for sale
Sure.
at letstalkjujitsu.com.
Speaking of which,
Yeah.
T-shirts. When am I getting?
Oh, I have to give you a Let's Talk Jiu-Jitsu t-shirt. I got to do that. Yeah, I got to do that. Hey, on the topic of belt promotions and stuff like that, again, another post in a random BJJ group. I like getting stuff from there because it opens discussion
Sure.
and whatnot. In one of the groups, I actually answered. They said, should purples and browns
Oh yeah.
be able to
I thought about this in the car when.
should be able to promote lower ranking belts.
Right. Should they be able to give
If-
their belts to somebody?
If they're the highest ranking in the academy or they run an academy or this and that. So I'm a brown belt and I think this guy should get his purple so I can give him his purple. And then discussion went nuts. I would say it was 50-50.
Really?
Half of them said, no, it should be done by a black belt. And I think it was a lot of black belt feedback that was
Yeah.
giving that. And then the other half was
No, purple belts.
yeah, all the
Oh,
purple
blue
belts were
belts
like,
and
no,
purple
no,
belts.
no. So yeah, that was an interesting topic. I don't know what you think about that.
I think it should be a black belt or through a black belt in some capacity. So, example, our school, Fred was a brown belt when he started kind of really establish his BTT West Island, I think, when we were at the tennis club. Him and Lee were both brown belts, and they're the ones who were teaching, right? But because he's an affiliate of BTT, everybody goes to Fabio to do the belt
and it
test.
went
So
through him.
that's right. So it's through Fabio with Fred, him putting his trust in Fred that everybody's earned it and they deserve it and everything. So it's kind of a, collaboration, but Fred not having that certificate, I guess, of a black belt, it's Fabio to, say, yes, he can have his black belt because I trust Fred kind of thing. So I think in that sense, it should be okay. Or example, Jacob is a black belt, right? This is actually kind of works the same thing. That doesn't count because he's up north with.
But he comes here for the
Inuits,
belt test,
and he comes here with the belt test, so that doesn't really count. But let's say he wasn't BTT and he had a legitimate black belt like he does, and he was up there and he was just his own teacher. I think he should be allowed. If he was a brown belt, I think he should be allowed to give the belts up.
You think he should go through the guy who gave him his black belt to get his say?
Not necessarily, but I think if his professor says you're a brown belt, but I give you my blessing kind of thing, go right ahead.
To run your academy, and I trust in your
Yes.
judgment and whatnot.
If he's running through under the same banner. But if he's his own independent, right, and has nothing to do with who he learned from,
Right.
I still think he should be able to do it as long as the professor says it's okay.
Okay. Are you saying strictly for brown, or what about purples?
I don't think purples should be giving them out. I can't
because there are a lot of
imagine-
purples that open up academies.
I know, and that's great, but they should be affiliated with somebody so they get. Otherwise,
They don't grow. That's true.
they don't grow.
They don't grow.
And not only that, but where does it stop?
Mm-hmm.
You know, we got blue belts opening up academies, right? As you know what I'm talking about. I
One
think.
in Montreal.
Well, one in Montreal
One in
and
Montreal.
some in the States, you know, and they call themselves.
Combatives.
Yeah, let's not.
Gracie compatibles.
Okay, so
Yeah.
let's
well,
mention
well,
it.
why not? What are we gonna do? Be like those guys? They're the only
Those
ones.
guys,
Or
yeah.
I'm saying they're the only ones. Maybe there are others, but
Right.
I mean, there's nothing wrong. Again, I had another full blown out conversation with, I think it was Professor Phil. I can't. I don't know why I can't stop talking to this guy. I'm telling you, it's just like
He's just
he just
so-
won't shut up.
He's so lovely.
No, but he. Well, you know, when I talk to him about things, like you could tell, like he's really putting his 2 cents in, and even if he's not sure, he'll say he's not sure. But I mean, we spoke about this, and it's like, why not? You know, if it's 2 guys who got a certification,
Yeah.
and they're teaching self-defense, and they don't claim to be anything else but a self-defense,
Right.
the self-defense portion of jiu-jitsu. I mean, what's wrong with 2 guys with blue belts if
Yeah.
that's what they're trained and certified
Sure.
to do, right?
They're not going to get, purple belts in there.
No.
Right. They're just going to get white belts, and they're going to train people up to the point that they can, I guess.
They
Right?
just want people to. They want people to. I mean, they want people to come in and to learn self-defense.
Right.
Their goal isn't to build world champions. Maybe they'll teach some self-defense through jiu-jitsu, and maybe those guys will be like, "Oh wow, I really love jiu-jitsu. I'd love to take it so much further."
Right.
And they'll go to another school who actually does sports jiu-jitsu and this and
Mm.
that. But I mean, their goal is to do self-defense jiu-jitsu. And at first I was like, oh man, it doesn't make any sense. 2 blue belts and this, that. Yeah, but it's 2 blue belts who are certified in something very specific, and they're teaching something specific.
Yeah.
It's not like they're teaching a point system and this and that. It's not like like your typical traditional Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu school.
Right.
So why not? I mean, why not teach people self-defense? Like, do I really care if you have a blue belt on? That's up to the client, right? That's the customer to be like, do your research, and if you go there and you trust in those people and you realize that their skills are valid, and you go through you maybe look at the background of the certification, you're like, wow, that makes sense. They went through a lot and they have great experience. Maybe they have backgrounds in other type of martial arts and not just that either, right?
Yeah.
Not just that certification. And if you're okay with that and you're willing to pay, I mean, who am I to say like, no, don't do it, right? I don't know.
And I think if the affiliation behind them supports them completely, saying that we trust this blue belt to represent
Yep.
what he's doing, represent us in what he's doing, then that's fine too, right? Because they're the ones who are going to, I guess, if anything does happen where they lose, a little bit of credibility, then the affiliate behind them is going to lose credibility, right? So, what
I
else you
agree.
got?
What else I got? I got lots of stuff. No, I don't. Oh yeah, someone posted a question. Is blue belt the happiest belt you've ever held?
That's a really silly question.
It is,
How
eh?
how do you define it as
How do you
happy?
define happy?
That's exactly what the quote was.
Yeah.
Is blue
That
belt.
was a question.
So they asked if blue belt was the happiest belt.
Yeah.
They asked that question.
Yeah.
Is this from the same person that asked the questions from the last podcast
No.
with Phil?
Horrible questions. That Phil was hating on everything. No, when you think about it, like, I don't know. It could have been a black belt or someone posting it and be like, hey, I love being a black belt, but I remember when I was a blue belt, man, that was a badass time for me. You know what I
don't
mean?
think
Like,
a black belt would ask that question. Just first of all, the whole
No, I
context of the
agree.
question,
I
I don't think they
agree,
would.
yeah.
And not only that, they've been through every belt.
Yeah.
So, I think
it's a blue belt. It's
that's
just
asking
having
that.
like a good time,
Yeah.
basically. Yeah. Because I think it just depends where you're at. And it's not just your jiu-jitsu. Is life going well for you? And jiu-jitsu is like really bringing something positive to your life. You'll be like, wow, like, this is the best belt. You know what I mean? Things
Yeah.
are going great. My jiu-jitsu, yeah, it sucks sometimes, but man, I'm having the time of my life. So in your head, you're like, blue belt is just like, I'm the happiest guy alive. Do you know what? Maybe because you're not a white belt.
I know you get to smash the white belts.
Yeah.
Well,
maybe.
Professor Phil says purple is the best belt.
Purple.
he says
it's the ninja belt.
That's right.
Yeah,
So
it is true.
Maybe it is. I'm a fresh purple belt.
I love
I
purple
don't feel
belt.
like a ninja yet, but maybe I will.
I love purple belt. Yeah, it's pretty ninja-ish. Yeah. What else? Someone posted, should we worry about quiet ones in BJJ? You know those guys that show up to class, or even those guys that are, purple belts. You do find a lot of these guys, or even brown belts or black belts, the ones that don't talk very much.
I don't think we should worry about them, because it doesn't mean that they're quiet, that they're, silent and deadly, right? Because I can think of two people off the top of my head now. One who was a quiet white belt, who was a bit of a dick, and I won't mention his name, but I had kind of a little conflict with him at one point, and in the class, and I threw a bow and arrow on him and fucked him up. But the point is that he was quiet, very quiet, and kind of sneaky, kind of like looking out the side of his, talking out the side of his mouth, kind of thing, and looking, he's just a weird kind of quiet guy, right? And he was white belt, and I wasn't scared of him, I wasn't worried about him, right? But then I went to this guy. I don't remember his name, but I would talk about him because he was a great rolling partner. When I went to Alain Savoie's opening day of his Laval, right? There was a purple belt there that trains. I don't know if he trains. I think he trains at Angry Monkey, maybe. Do you know who this guy is? He's a good purple belt, small guy, like 150.
No.
God, I can't remember his name. I wish I did, but anyway, he was really good. He was gracious. He was better than me, and he was slick, and he'd get in, and he was super quiet and chill and everything. And it was, but it was a good experience. So that guy's like, worry about him because
right.
You wouldn't. He's a sleeper. You know what I mean? You're not expecting it, and he was really good. So I guess it just depends on the personality of the person, I think, right?
Yeah, and I've never really met anybody that was super quiet that I had to kind of, I guess, watch out for or worry that they were like.
I think worry and watch out are loose terms, right? It's more about like. In the way that we're talking, it's like worry about, he's better than we thought he was. That's the worry part, right? So.
And you might get some new guys that'll come in that'll be quiet and this and that, but afterwards, I mean, everyone's sociable with everybody. Yeah. I guess if a guy has been in your academy for like longer than a year and is still quiet, he's probably a murderer. So
maybe sociopath or something. Yeah,
definitely. I thought of there was another question that I didn't write down, but that I did think of, and it will come back to me at some point.
I don't know if I took any notes. Hold on.
Hey, it's funny because we were talking about this in our jiu-jitsu crew about people dodging other people. Isn't that hilarious? That was funny though. It was a good rant. You know what I mean?
I didn't see the
initial post.
I didn't see it. This was in the WhatsApp group.
It was in the WhatsApp group.
Was it last week?
I think it was last week. Yeah, you were
while
away.
I was in Arizona, so I didn't keep up with it at all.
Yeah.
I came back. There was like 100 messages. I just went through them. Yeah, and they just scrolled down to the end. And
it was funny because they were talking about just people dodging people. Initially, it was these high belts are dodging me,
right?
But in reality, it just comes down to people dodging people. And I had commented, I was like, wow, that's an interesting topic for a podcast. I wish I knew someone that had a podcast. But it's not. I don't think it's higher belts or it's just people. I think that happens, and it will happen in every academy. You will have two people who might not maybe get along, or you'll have a guy that's your arch nemesis at jiu-jitsu, or maybe that day you're injured and you're not feeling well, so you're kind of maybe picking your roles a little bit more carefully, and you might be avoiding that one guy maybe for a few weeks, and all of a sudden that guy's like, hey, what's going on with that dick, man? He's not picking me anymore, and this that. There's so many reasons. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
But I mean, that's not dodging does. I mean, it is present and it does happen.
Sure.
But you don't know the reason behind it.
No.
I know why people dodge me. It's because I'm so fucking good at jiu-jitsu, and these higher belts never want to roll with me because they won't get tapped out.
Oh,
No, I'm just kidding.
boy.
No, it never happens. That never happens. No,
People's
but
ears are perking up. Right
yeah. Professor Phil's gonna squish my face. No, but I mean that does happen. I mean but you don't know the reason. You know what I mean? Like I went through a period like that where I had maybe one or two black belts who I felt were avoiding me, but I don't think they were purposely avoiding me.
Right.
I think it was just maybe they wanted to work on stuff and go with other people. Maybe they knew I was training for a comp and I was going like 150% all the time. They were like,
speed,
I just don't want to deal with that type of thing. Or maybe my jiu-jitsu was just really on par. Maybe I was just going through one of those stints where like things are going well, and maybe they just were like, no, I don't want to deal with him type of thing. And that's fine too. That's okay. There's just so many reasons.
I'm more of a glutton for punishment. Like I like to say, I'm gonna pick one of those white belts down there tonight. Yeah, I'm gonna pick that guy.
80% of your rolls have to be with lower belts.
And then it's my turn to pick, and I pick the next monster in line.
Yeah.
Like, because I feel too guilty as if I'm trying to chicken out or something like that. But now with this whole, John Danaher mentality,
Hey, you
I
rethink
can pick
things.
some lower belts even.
Yeah.
Sure.
I like the idea of picking the roller belts. But again, I like rolling with all these black and brown belts because even though I get my butt handed to me, most of the time I'm learning something. I'm learning what's working, what's not. Do I have to switch something up where I won't learn that I might, but most of the time I won't learn that with maybe someone much lower than me. You know what I mean? Like I need to test on people that are better than me because that's what's going to make my jiu-jitsu better.
Right.
It's not always rolling with lower belts and making sure my technique works on them.
Right.
Eventually, I'll work through it, and then if it works on a higher belt, then great. Like I'm where I need to be. But I like drilling things constantly with higher belts because I like the idea of getting my butt handed to me, and it humbles you quite a bit.
Oh yeah.
So
going back to the dodging question, have you dodged anybody before?
have I dodged anybody? Yes, I have.
Have you?
Yeah, and I can tell you who.
Who and why?
Corrado.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I've dodged Corrado in no-gi. Again, this was maybe, I want to say a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago.
Mm-hmm.
Every time I rolled with him, I got nowhere. I want to say a year and a half ago, maybe longer.
So
maybe
you
longer.
were discouraged, I guess, going against him.
Yeah, but
he's
again,
so good.
I've never had that mentality in jiu-jitsu. It didn't happen for long. I would say maybe it lasted maybe about 3 or 4 weeks, and then it just went away. I think I was just going through something, like in my jiu-jitsu.
Right.
That maybe something happened with him where I was like, man, this is not cool. As in, like I'm constantly getting smashed, or he's always doing the same thing. I'm always in the same position, so I'm saying to myself, I'm not learning anything. In reality, I am type of thing. I'm just being an idiot. So I have to say, for a couple of weeks, and I remember specifically doing it. That's why I'm saying it. That was like, I can't roll with him. Like, I'm not getting anywhere.
Right.
Like, I'm getting absolutely nowhere. Let me roll with this other guy where at least I get somewhere. And even if he subs me or tasks me, like, I'll figure it out. But with Corrado, like, I never figured it out. I had to work through it to be able to be like, okay, well, like, I have to roll with him. I got to figure out what's going on and this and that. But I have to say it took a couple weeks. And this was maybe about a year and a half ago. And I feel like that was, again, a milestone that I could honestly remember that say, like, I had to go through that because it brought me to another level and I got somewhere else. But yeah, it did happen. Yeah.
I'm not sure if I dodged. I think I did dodge people maybe in the past, but it was very like, it was for 1 day or 2 days,
Like a
kind
random
thing because it was like, well, this person now just learned to, press the points of his elbows into your thighs to break the closed guard kind of thing. And I was like, oh, I hate that,
Yeah.
So I just wouldn't pick them. So I think it was like just an outlier thing kind of where I just wouldn't pick them that day or that time, whatever. But then I was like, oh, you know what? I'm just being a fucking baby. And I just figured out what to do in that scenario.
Yeah.
And good. I was happy. I'm like, now I'll pick that person. I don't care so much anymore. And I was actually looking forward to it so that I could actually shut that down for them.
Yeah.
So they were forced to do something else. It just wasn't working anymore.
Yeah, actually with Corrado, like I definitely like have a very high respect for him and his jiu-jitsu, his no-gi. I haven't seen him put on a gi in like forever. So like, and he only shows up to no-gi class.
He was there actually not long ago before I went to
gi?
Arizona. He was there in gi, yeah.
Oh man, I haven't seen him in gi in so long. But anyways, in no-gi, I mean, his no-gi is crazy and he has a good wrestling background and it's really good. Yeah. But I have to say that like I've learned to have a very big appreciation for what he does. So maybe at the time, I think maybe I was a blue belt. I didn't appreciate what he was doing, and maybe I thought it was just him like bullying me in jiu-jitsu type of thing, but it wasn't. It was just his jiu-jitsu's that good.
Yeah, his
no-gi was that good. You know what I mean? So I don't know, and I know. I mean, I roll with him all the time when I'm in no-gi class now, and I think I'm the first one he usually picks in line.
Right.
He'll pick Will or myself first. Right. So I mean, there's something to that. If he wants to roll with me, I must be giving him something, or else he wouldn't be picking me. Right. So yeah, shout out to Corrado.
Yeah. Corrado. And I think one thing, I'll say two things about him also, what I know about rolling with him. I haven't rolled with him that many times, but when I was probably like white belt, blue belt, when he was still more around back then, he would take the time to teach me things. And I never pegged him as that guy. I thought, oh, wow, like he's young and he's got he's a
big guy.
Not just that, he's young and he's kind of wild. Like, still like in that, I guess, especially back then, like, in the partying and stuff like that. So I never thought him as a serious kind of jiu-jitsu teacher, you know, or someone you could learn from like that. But he absolutely was. He would tell me things like that, and it was good. And then the only thing I would say that he needed to work on back then, I don't know about anymore, again, because I haven't rolled with him in a long time, probably a couple of years, is that he's not like Fred or Pascal or Phil even for that matter, where they let you get to a certain point, right? Let's see what he does when I give him this.
Right.
I don't see Corrado doing that.
No.
I don't know if he does or not. Maybe you can correct me, but
he doesn't do that. But that's
I see him going easy on me.
Yeah,
right?
for
He's
sure.
going easy on
he
me.
can go much worse on all of us.
Oh yeah.
But I think there's something behind that. I think he's doing it on purpose, and he does whatever he does against you or me or anybody else because he's trying to teach us something.
Right.
I don't think he's the type of guy who will stand in front of a class and do an instructional and start pinpointing certain things and like dissecting a movement. He's not that type of guy. He teaches you through his movements, through his rolls and stuff. So I think he's just that type of guy. Yeah. Everyone has their different way of teaching, and maybe that's just his way.
Okay.
He's a brown belt, and he's learning too, right?
Yeah.
So.
Okay, we spent way too much time talking about Corrado.
Yeah, man.
Fuck you, Corrado. Just kidding.
I'm totally going to tag him in the podcast. So he has to listen to 54 minutes of it.
Here we go.
Or he has to keep scrolling until he hears his name.
Yeah.
What else do we have? Just a few more questions. Maybe we can go through. Oh, yeah, this is a good one. Because this is actually... So, before I got sick like a week and a half ago, I was at Open Mat. I went to Open Mat on
Sunday?
On Sunday, right. So... There's a husband and wife that train together. Their kids are in the kids' classes.
Sure.
Jonathan
and
man, you could probably say their names, and I have no idea.
Jonathan and Cheyenne, you know them.
No, not Jonathan.
Oh, not
Cheyenne,
them.
no.
Okay.
Dan is their kid.
Oh, it's
Them.
Yes.
And they totally listen to the podcast, so we're totally screwed.
Do they?
Yeah. And I just added her on Facebook, or she added me on Facebook.
Gabriella. And her husband is Richard.
Richard.
That's what it is. Yeah.
So.
They're both kind of small.
Yes, exactly.
Romanian.
Yeah, exactly. So they're new. They're both white belts.
Yep.
But they've been doing it for a little while.
They
now,
go to the fundamentals class a lot.
They love the
too.
fundamentals class. Okay, so here's the scenario. Hope they don't mind me talking about them, but I find it really interesting. Like really, really interesting, actually. So he works a lot. He makes it in the morning class, like the 7 a.m. But he has to leave by like 8 o'clock.
Okay.
He has to leave by a certain time where he misses out on the rolls.
Sure.
On that one morning he can come. The other he does, I think he can make it to one Cascal class during the week where he does roll.
Okay.
But the other classes that he attends, he'll go to lunch or something, but he has to leave before the rolls because he has to go back to work.
Okay.
He loves the fundamental class. This guy is super technical. He loves the curriculum. And he's very analytical, so that's what he likes.
And that's the kind of person he is too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't know what
super
he does.
Intelligent guy.
Yeah, I don't know what he does for work, but definitely something with numbers or whatever. So so I got into a conversation with him, and he was saying, I don't roll very often, because he was at the Open Mat and we were rolling, and I think he was getting a little frustrated. Like I was obviously giving him space to move. I always do, and with the white belts, not with anybody else. So he was moving around. And then afterwards he was getting frustrated because he's like, I never roll. And I was saying, well, grab my knee, like do this technique or do that. And he was I could see him, it was like trying to register in his head. And he was like, I think in his head, he was looking at the curriculum, trying to figure out what number it was and then to come back to it because he's so technical. So because he can't roll often, he's basing himself on just doing technique. But in his head, he's like, I'm going to learn. And he told me this, I'm going to learn day 1 and day 2. When I know day 1 and day 2 by heart, I will then apply them in rolls. But I want to learn day 1 and day 2 first.
So he's saying that he's going to work on learning those before he starts rolling regularly? Is that what you're saying?
Right. Yeah. So that's what I got from the conversation I had. So he wanted to learn the techniques and how to do them in a non-roll environment, non-grappling environment by drilling the techniques. Your first hour right in class, you're doing techniques. I'm doing it, doing a few reps on each side. The other person is doing the same thing. So he's focusing on learning all the techniques. And he said, after I know them by heart, that I can do day 1 and day 2 without even looking at the list, I'll then apply them in my rolls. Go to his wife now, who can't make it out very often because she has kids and whatnot, that she can't make it out to do lots of technique, but she can make it out often to open mats where you spend 99% of the time rolling.
Yeah.
she is progressing faster than he is, and he admits to it. He told me in the locker room, he's like, I don't understand. She spends next to no time on technique, but she's advancing a lot faster than I am. At the same time, he's saying that he only wants to learn he wants to focus on learning technique, and then afterwards he'll apply it in the roles, right? So I think there was like a little bit of a contradiction, but I found the discussion really interesting, and him very interesting to say that, to then how he compared it to his wife, who was saying, you know, I just can't, like, I can't make it out to do technique. So I'm rolling a lot so I can just figure it out through there.
Yeah.
So husband and wife are doing things on different spectrums. Sure. At the end, they'll probably get the same result. Just someone will get there faster than the other. I'm curious what you think about that.
I totally agree with you. I think one will get there faster than the other because rolling is absolutely necessary for me. Yeah. Mm-hmm. You know, and because of the personalities is what makes people decide which approach they're going to have. Right. So because he's analytical, he thinks, well, let me approach this like I would my job.
Yeah.
And she's thinking, well, you know, she doesn't have a technical job. Maybe she does, you know, I don't know what she does either, but her personality is the other way. It's like, oh, you know, let me just do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And see what happens. And it ends up working. And then I think your body is recognizing the technique, even almost involuntarily. Mm-hmm. You know, while you're in the role, you go, oh, look at that. It's there. I fell into side control variation or whatever, you know, like it's there, it just happened, and your body felt it, and it felt normal because you've been practicing the technique somewhat, but your body recognized. So maybe it'll recognize it. It'll take a little longer, but it gets there anyways. But in his case, it's the same thing. It'll take longer to get there also. Mm-hmm. He'll be in his role and not know what to do. Now he's thinking back, okay, what about this?
And the guy's already moved on to something else.
He's already got him in the friggin' armbar by that point. Or he's thinking of the wrong thing to do. Yeah. Because he's not associating it with the position that he's in. Mm-hmm. The position you're in is going to determine what your next step is. Right?
Yeah.
So I think that's probably not as practical, but if you're that kind of person, you automatically go there.
And you've got the time. It's not like he's in a rush either.
That's right.
So yeah, it's just a different way of approaching it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, my brother's an artist, and he would say, well, he's an artist. He used to be a very good artist. You know, everything he did for art was phenomenal. And he would say, you know, we would learn how to do techniques of certain things, mosaic, pointillism, whatever, you know. But you get good is when you practice doing the actual drawing. Mm-hmm. Like draw something and use the technique you've learned, but actually draw it. And okay, make a mistake, you erase that section and redo it or whatever. But he's not just going to practice drawing circles, you know, or doing a page of pointillism where the dots are really close together at the top and they start to spread out as you go down, unless that's what you want to draw. But as a technique kind of thing, he'll just draw a dog or something that has different shadowing and different stuff so that he can practice bringing it to life. You know what I mean?
I'm thinking about that. I'm going in like 100 different directions with it because when you think about it, when you relate it to drawing, you know, a white belt is definitely like someone who's starting to draw. They have to draw to figure out where their mistakes are. Right?
Proportions is one of the biggest things with drawing. You draw something, the friggin' head is way too big for the body, or you know, the nose is too big for the face, or whatever. The arms are too skinny. You erase and start over. You draw the proportion accordingly. Yeah. So as you get better at drawing, you start drawing, your first draft starts getting a little better and a little better, right? Every time you do it. So
you're drawing less and less as you go, you know, you start looking at different belts and you gain more experience in jiu-jitsu. Yeah. You know, a purple belt might be erasing a little less. Yeah. And you know what? He might be doing the same circle over and over and over and over until the circle is exactly how he wants it. And right?
the purple belts, brown belts, black belts, they're drawing and they're practicing technique of drawing in their drawings, right? They're the technique of jiu-jitsu, they're practicing it while they roll at the same time. And after years go by, like it or not, you've done these repetitions at the same time, right? But I think the technique, you know, the way we have it set up at BTT is awesome. The way Fred has it set up, it's technique, you know, you work on your technique and then you try to apply it, you work on your rolling after. So
imagine how much further we could have taken that thought of drawing and related to jiu-jitsu if we had smoked marijuana. We could have spent another hour on that easy.
But we was talking about like
we talk about
shit.
about
nonsense.
Like
the pencil, man.
It is legal in Canada. Like just mentioning it.
Is it just lead? Like lead is like so many things, man.
But that's really interesting. It's a good. I think you know, Fred does that a lot. You know, he'll use analogies. But I mean that idea of an artist and relating it to jiu-jitsu. I know you could do it with so many things, but that kind of clicked with me, so I'll definitely think about that a little bit more.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Oh, wise Brian. What was
you
it?
know.
Yeah, Phil calls you useless, Brian.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
yeah, he's not so useless.
I'm not
Look
so
at
useless,
this.
not
man.
always.
That's pretty good. Did you have anything you want to talk about? That pretty much sums up my the stuff that I had to talk about. I mean,
Let's talk about the fact that you have way too many snow globes in this room.
the reason why I have snow globes in the podcast room is because every time my daughter goes on a trip somewhere, or she'll go down south and I'm not around. Obviously, I don't send my 11-year-old daughter by herself down to Punta Cana or whatever. But I mean, she
Tijuana.
yeah, wherever she goes, she brings me back a snow globe.
Oh, yeah?
So
That's
I
cool.
put them up there, and yeah, I've kind of filled up the room a little bit more. Like I have my original karate black belt. I hung it up.
Oh, is that what that is?
Yeah, yeah, it's my
It's
original one. I found it because we've been spring cleaning, so I found a
Okay.
bunch of stuff.
Cool.
Karate breaking boards. I mean, I have some jiu-jitsu stuff.
Oh, the colored ones?
Yeah, the
Oh,
colored
yeah.
ones, yeah. And then some like random jiu-jitsu stuff. And yeah, so I've been kind of filling up the room.
It's
and,
looking homier and homier.
yeah, trying. So that's it. You have nothing else you want to talk about, I guess?
I don't know, man. I was just
been
glad
an
you
hour.
you had a bunch of questions set up. I was happy.
Good thing.
I know, fuck all. Like nothing interesting from Arizona to talk about. Just
Yeah.
my failure at trying to go and train at Megatons. But
Yeah. Okay, so maybe some things coming up that I can officially say is coming up. So I am into. So this week I will definitely post Professor Calum Kalista, who I will do a podcast tomorrow at 3 p.m. He's in Punta Cana. He's with GFT, runs the academy there. It's taken 2 months to get this guy on. It just hasn't worked out. We've just been both really, really busy. But finally, I'm going to have him on. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. I'll release that this week. I also have Professor Robert, I want to say Hugus, or it's Hugus.
how's it spelled?
Hugus. Yeah.
Hugus.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's not like French, like ig.
I
Like
don't
with
think
the E
so. No.
before the S. No.
No. Anyways, he owns an academy and runs an academy, and man, he's pretty decorated too. He owns an academy in Plattsburgh, New York. It's only an hour and a half away, so I'm actually going to drive down there this week. I asked if it'd be okay if I came and did a class. That way he could get to know me a little bit better, and then later on in the week we'll do a podcast with him. So he's not too far,
Cool.
and not often do I get to actually meet people in person because they're in the middle of the U.S. or
Yeah.
Punta Cana. It's not like
Yeah.
I'm going to have them here, so it's kind of cool.
It's not in the budget. Put together.
Yeah, not
Come
in
on.
the budget. Not in the budget right now. Apart from that, this
What-
episode
sorry, Ray, when are you going to
Wednesday
Vegas?
night, I think.
Wednesday night.
Yeah, Wednesday night. So think about that.
How far drive is it? Where are we
An
going?
hour and a half, Plattsburgh. It's before Plattsburgh.
Maybe I'll come with you.
Yeah, you never know. Never know. Another thing would be I have to do a shout out to our sponsor, right, for the podcast. We don't have one, but I would love to have a sponsor
So
for
shout
the podcast.
out to whoever you are.
Yeah, whoever you are. If you'd love to sponsor the podcast, please, you can shoot me out an email at letstalkjujitsu@gmail.com. You can find me on Facebook. Definitely, I guess, not actively looking for sponsors, but if someone would like to sponsor the podcast. We try to be very active on social media. We have a lot of people following the podcast and listening in, lots of downloads. So, I mean, it could be interesting to have maybe a sponsor jump on. That would be really cool.
sure.
I think once we, keep doing what we're doing, you never know what could happen. Maybe people will approach us. You never know. That'd be really nice. But in the meantime, I'll still throw it out there. And like I said, don't forget, we're on literally everything now. So we're on iTunes, SoundCloud, Spotify, Podcast Addict, literally everything. Because we're on iTunes, it kind of spreads itself out everywhere else. So you could literally find the podcast anywhere. And that's pretty much it.
What's happening with Mr. Professor Marcus Suarez?
I
you
have
getting
to
him?
reach back out to him. I got to
Okay.
call him because he said he was actually his message was call me and gave me his phone number.
Okay.
So I have to call him now
Oh,
and have a
okay.
conversation with him to
sure.
see if he wants to be on.
Cool.
So yeah, that could be interesting too. We are sponsoring a jiu-jitsu athlete, which is a kid actually that we came across, which is something cool. You could find him on Facebook too. His name is Samuel. He has Asperger's, but super functional, really amazing kid. So we're sponsoring him. So we're paying for a year of his membership. Actually, his mom is paying for a small portion, but we're trying to do as much as we can for him. So we're trying to raise some money. So we do have a fundraiser group on Facebook to complete the payment for for his 1 year of jiu-jitsu. But I mean, we've raised quite a bit of money, so we're doing pretty good. But our goal is to try to get another kid into jiu-jitsu, so we'd like to get paid for another year membership for another child, obviously locally here in Montreal. But if not, maybe if someone, maybe there's an organization out there or there's another school out there that'd be interested to help out. If you want to donate money, you can reach out directly to me on Facebook or by email, and we can definitely work something out. But once I have more funds available, I'm going to reach out to a local organization that helps underprivileged kids and see if we can get another kid in jiu-jitsu.
And all those proceeds go towards
everything.
Child. Right.
Literally, there are no funds that are coming into the podcast, and I don't need any funds to come into the podcast. We're in the basement of my house. I have a laptop, a few mics, and we do this very casually, not looking for any money or fame in this. It's just something to bring the jiu-jitsu community together and just to have some fun, talk with some cool people. So any funds that are donated, everything goes directly to these kids' memberships, and I post pictures of them on Facebook. I post the classes that they do and all the information. So yeah, definitely, if you want to donate anything, know that everything goes to the membership of the kids. So yeah, it's pretty cool. Yeah. All right, guys, we'll see you guys next time. Have a good jiu-jitsu week, and we'll see you on the mats. Thanks, Brian.
Later, man.
You've been listening to Let's Talk Jiu-Jitsu with Raymond Terrence. Go follow us on Facebook and Instagram, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube page. Turn on notifications and press that like button. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you on the mats.